The 12th man is still standing. 11 of them are on the ground, against the walls, or backed against the alley entrance with an expression that does not have a clean name in any language. 11 men who came into this alley certain of one thing and are now certain of something else entirely. The 12th man is 7, the one who started this, the one who gave the speech, the one who had 12 people behind him when this began 5 minutes ago. He is walking forward alone, not to fight, something else. Something that Danny Yuen, 19 years old, pressed flat against a rooftop wall 4 floors above this alley, cannot immediately categorize, and which he will still be turning over in his mind at the age of 67 when a journalist finally convinces him to sit down and describe the night in detail. 7 stops 6 feet from Bruce Lee. He says something. Bruce listens. And what happens in the 30 seconds after that will be the part of this story that almost nobody gets right when they repeat it, because what happened before it was so dramatic that most people stop there, and what happened after it was so quiet that it does not survive the retelling the way loud things survive. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Go back. Tuesday evening, Kowloon, Hong Kong, 1958. The sky is the color of an old bruise. The narrow street smells of cooking oil and concrete, and the particular dampness that settles into Hong Kong's alleyways in autumn. A 19-year-old named Danny Yuen is following a man 3 years younger than himself through the 3rd neighborhood of the evening, not because he was asked to, but because 6 weeks ago Danny watched this person train for the first time and has not been able to stop watching since. The man he is following is Bruce Lee, 18 years old, 5'7", 138 pounds on a frame that looks like it was built for a purpose other than fighting until you watch it move, at which point you understand that everything about it was built specifically for that, and nothing else was a consideration. Bruce Lee has been studying Wing Chun under Ip Man since he was 13. He has been in street fights. He has competed in rooftop boxing matches that the local authorities prefer not to officially acknowledge. His reputation in the youth martial arts community of Hong Kong is the kind that precedes a person into rooms and makes other people in those rooms quietly recalibrate. Danny is not following him because of the reputation. He is following him because of something he cannot yet describe accurately. The way Bruce Lee walks through the city is wrong, not wrong in the sense of bad. Wrong in the sense of different from every other fighter Danny has ever trained beside. Most fighters, good fighters, legitimate fighters, people who have earned their confidence, carry a slight performance in their body in public spaces. A barely visible advertisement that says, "I am capable of serious damage. Please factor this into your proximity decisions." It is unconscious, and nearly everyone does it, and Danny himself does it without knowing. And it is not dishonest. It is simply the way that people who know how to fight move through spaces where they might need to. Bruce Lee carries nothing like this. He moves through the city as though the question of which streets belong to whom has simply never occurred to him as a relevant category. He moves through Kowloon the way water moves, not asserting anything, not advertising anything, going where he is going, with the complete absence of hesitation that comes not from confidence, but from something that sits underneath confidence, the way a foundation sits underneath a building. Danny wants to understand this before he understands anything else about martial arts. He turns a corner and Bruce Lee has walked into an alley, not a short one. This alley goes 30 meters before it ends at a concrete wall covered in faded advertising, a dead end, 4 meters wide. One entrance, which is the end Bruce entered from, and which is now filling with figures emerging from doorways and shadows the way these situations always develop in the Kowloon district in 1958. Danny counts. 12. He takes the stairs, 3rd floor landing, 4th floor landing. The roof door is already open. Someone left it that way, or it does not latch properly, or the city is making accommodations for what is about to happen. The parapet wall is low enough to see over without standing. Danny gets flat against it and looks down. The alley from above is a completely different thing than the alley from inside. From inside, what you see is 12 men and one exit and a dead end and a problem with no obvious solution. From above, what you see is geometry. The alley is 4 meters wide. 12 men cannot stand 4 abreast in 4 meters. They can manage 2, maybe 3 at a tight angle. The dead end is 30 meters behind Bruce. The entrance is 30 meters behind the 12 men. The walls on both sides are flat concrete with no doorways in the relevant section. What Danny sees from above, And this is the thing he will describe to journalists and students and anyone who will listen for the next 50 years, is that Bruce Lee has stopped in the exact center of the available space. Not against the wall, not pressed toward the exit, the center. And from above, Danny can see what that means in a way that nobody at ground level can. The 12 men can only approach Bruce 2 or 3 at a time. The wall behind Bruce cannot be weaponized. The entrance, which is the only direction containing human beings, is a single channel that funnels people toward him in a sequence rather than a mass. Bruce did not find this position after evaluating options. He walked to it before the group had finished materializing. Danny presses his chest against the parapet and does not look away. Below, the leader of the group, 23 years old, the person this territory belongs to, a young man who has built something real in this neighborhood through a combination of genuine toughness and the specific social intelligence required to hold people together around a shared purpose, is finishing his speech. It is a practice speech, it has a rhythm to it. Something about the neighborhood, something about respect, something about the informal toll that people pay when they pass through without acknowledgement. Bruce listens to the entire thing. When Seven finishes, there is a pause. Bruce says, "Are you planning to enforce this yourself, or is there a system?" Seven stares at him. The 12 men close in. The first man goes for a collar grab, both arms reaching the natural play in a tight space. Get control of the smaller body, pull it off balance, let the numbers do the work after that. It is not a sophisticated technique, it does not need to be. Bruce's hands come up inside the reaching arms at the exact moment the man's weight commits forward. Not to stop the grab, to meet the insides of both wrists at the moment they are most extended and redirect them 2 inches left. 2 inches at the wrists is 18 inches at the destination. The destination is no longer Bruce. The destination is 2 of the men standing directly behind where Bruce was standing, and the grabbing man's own forward momentum delivers him precisely there. 3 men tangled together in the first second, and Bruce is 6 feet to the right of where he was, and he has not thrown a strike. Danny's count 1 second, 3 men out, 0 strikes thrown. He is gripping the top of the parapet wall hard enough that his knuckles are starting to ache. He does not notice. 7, watching from the side of the alley, sends 2 more from the right side. Flanking approach, smarter than the first attempt. The 2 men try to coordinate, one drawing attention while the other closes from a different angle. Bruce moves toward them, not sideways, not back, toward. Danny sees it from above. The left man reaches first because his angle is marginally better, and the moment he reaches, his body position creates a zone that the right man cannot enter without contacting his partner. This zone lasts approximately half a second. In that half second, Bruce has redirected what the left man's reach is doing, not blocked it, redirected it, so that the left man is now slightly turned, and the right man arrives to find his partner occupying the space he intended to occupy, and the 2 of them occupy each other's way for 1 additional second, while Bruce is already 3 feet further into the alley. 2 more men on the ground. Bruce is moving toward the dead end. This is the wrong direction. Danny, staring down, does not understand it for approximately 4 seconds. Then he understands it. Moving toward the dead end means the concrete wall is now directly behind Bruce. The concrete wall cannot be weaponized. By walking deeper into the alley, Bruce has eliminated an entire dimension of the problem. Nobody can come at him from behind, because there is no behind, there is only wall. The available directions of attack have been reduced from 360 degrees to approximately 180 degrees, and within those 180 degrees, the alley's narrowness means it remains a channel of 2 or 3 people at a time. Danny feels something shift in his understanding that is not excitement, and is not fear, but sits somewhere between them and operates at a different level than either. He realizes he is watching someone think, not react, think. In real time, in a 4-meter alley, against 12 people thinking with his feet. 7 sends 3 at once. He has understood by now that 1 at a time is not producing results, and 3 is the maximum the alley's width will accommodate at a useful angle. The 3 men move together, 1 slightly ahead, 2 slightly behind, trying to close the distance as a mass rather than a sequence. Bruce walks forward to meet the first one. This is wrong. Every instinct says wait, let them come, use the wall. Walking forward shortens the distance before the rear 2 are in position to help the front one, and it changes the timing of everything. The front man expected to close over 3 or 4 steps, and instead the distance collapses in 1, and he makes the adjustment that all fighters make when the engagement arrives earlier than the body anticipated. A half-second recalibration. In that half-second, Bruce has completed what he needed to complete with the front man and is moving to the geometry of the next two. The second man swings. The swing is real, committed weight, proper rotation, the kind of punch that ends things when it connects. It arrives at where Bruce was. Bruce is inside the radius, too close for the punch to generate power, and from that range his right elbow finds the man's balance point and the man goes. The third man stops walking. He looks at the ground. He looks at Bruce. Bruce looks at him with an expression that Danny, from 4 floors up, can still read clearly, patient, serious, containing no aggression whatsoever. The expression of a man who is not enjoying this and is not performing the not enjoying it. Simply doing what the situation requires and waiting for the situation to change. The third man takes 2 steps back toward the alley wall. 7 has 3 people with him now. Himself and 2 others. His face is doing something that Danny watches carefully, because Danny has already understood that the physical portion of this evening is functionally resolved, and the interesting thing now is what happens in the space after the resolution. 7 is deciding something. You can see the deciding from 4 floors up. His body has the specific stillness of a person running a calculation whose result keeps arriving before the calculation finishes. He has built 3 years of his life around a specific understanding of what he is, and what this street is, and what happens when someone comes through it without paying appropriate acknowledgement. That understanding is being revised in real time in a Kowloon alley, and the revision is visible on his face, in a way he cannot control. He raises his hand, the 2 men with him stop, he walks forward alone. This is the part that disappears from every version of the story Danny hears over the following decades. The version that circulates through Hong Kong's martial arts community turns 7 into a footnote. A bully who got what he deserved. A coward who sent others to do what he would not do himself. A minor character whose only function is to set up the legend's demonstration. That version is easier. It is not what happened. What happened is that 7 walked forward alone and stopped 6 feet from Bruce Lee and stood there for a moment in silence. And when he spoke, his voice did not have any of the performance in it that his opening speech had. He asked a question, a real one. Danny cannot hear the words from the roof, but he can see 7's face while he speaks, and what is on it is not humiliation and is not calculation. It is the face of a person who has just had an experience that is genuinely new to them and is trying to understand what it means. Bruce listens to the whole question. Then he says, and Danny will learn these words at a tea stall 2 streets away, 40 minutes from now, and will write them in a notebook that same night, and will keep that notebook for 40 years until a journalist asks him about it. You are not a bad fighter. You are a bad test. 7 waits. You have spent 3 years fighting people who already believe you will win before the fight starts. That is not a test, that is a rehearsal. Every rehearsal you pass, you believe is evidence of something real. It is not evidence of anything except that you chose the right rehearsal. 7 says what just happened was not a rehearsal. Bruce says no. What just happened was me showing you the difference between your rehearsal and an actual test. If this had been an actual test, I would not have stopped at the point I stopped. A pause. 7 says, where do you train? Bruce tells him. Danny comes down from the roof when his legs agree to carry weight again. He finds Bruce 2 streets east at a tea stall, both hands around a ceramic cup, watching the street with the expression of a man who watches streets the way other people read, with attention, finding things in them, not waiting for them to do something, but simply present to what they are. Danny sits across from him. His notebook is already out. You told him where you train, he asked. He had 12 people in that alley 40 minutes ago. He had 12 people doing what he told them. Bruce drinks his tea. That is a different thing from having 12 people. The 12 are not the source. The 12 are the symptom. Danny writes this down. He says, the symptom of what? The wrong test. Bruce sets down the cup. He has been choosing opponents he can already beat, situations he already controls. Then he wins them, and believes the winning is measurement of something. It measures nothing except his ability to choose situations he controls. And you don't do that. Bruce looks at him. I try not to. Tonight, he pauses. Tonight I walked into an alley. I did not choose it. I did not control it. 12 people I had never seen. Space I had never been in. I do not know what would have happened with different 12 people or a different alley. I found out what happened with those 12 people in that alley. And what happened? I found out something I didn't know I knew. He picks up the cup again. That is the only reason to take a real test, not to prove anything. To find out what you did not know you knew. Danny writes for 30 seconds straight. Then he looks up and says the calm, in the alley. I was watching you from the roof and your breathing didn't change. Bruce shakes his head. Not calm. Present is the difference. Calm is something you maintain, you perform it. You hold it against the pressure trying to break it. He puts the cup down. Present means you are only in this moment, not the moment that might come. Not the moment that just passed, only this one. When you are only in this moment, there is nothing to be calm about. There is only what is actually here, Danny writes. Calm performance, present location. He underlines it twice. 11 days later, Seven shows up at Ip Man's school. He comes alone. He is wearing plain clothes, and he carries himself differently than he did in the alley. Not smaller, not diminished, but without the particular broadcasting quality that a person carries when their identity is constructed on being the most dangerous presence in available space. He trains there for 2 years. He is, by the account of other students from that period, a serious practitioner, harder on himself during drills than most, carrying something in the practice that he does not explain and nobody asks about. He does not become a famous fighter, he does not pursue competition. In 1963, he opens a hardware store in Kowloon. He runs it for 28 years. His wife says he is a patient man. His 4 children grow up with a father who is genuinely present in their company, not physically present while mentally elsewhere, but actually present, attending to what is in front of him. His youngest son, in an interview given decades after his father's death, uses a phrase that he says he heard his father use when the son asked him once how he dealt with difficult situations in business. His father said, "Look at the geometry." The son did not know what this meant. His father smiled and said, "It means before you decide what to do, understand what is actually available. Not what you wish was available, not what should be available, what is actually there." The son said he spent 30 years thinking about this before he understood it fully. His father never told him where the phrase came from. Danny Yuen trained with Bruce Lee for 4 more years after that Tuesday. He went to Singapore in 1963. He went to Malaysia in 1968. He opened his first school in 1971, and his second in 1979, and his third in 1984. And by the end of his teaching career, he had trained more than 800 students across 4 decades. He told the alley story every year. First session, first week, every new cohort. He sat everyone down and he told it from beginning to end. The 12 men, the geometry, 7 walking forward alone, the tea stall. The phrase Bruce used that Danny wrote in his notebook and kept. Students asked him every year which part was the most important. Every year, the same answer. Not the fighting, the geometry. Before a single person moved, he said, Bruce had already walked to the exact position in that alley where the problem was most manageable. Not the exit, not the corner. The position where the available space worked with him rather than against him. He read a 4-meter alley the way a doctor reads a patient's face. Not waiting to see what happens, but understanding immediately what the structure is revealing. And what Danny spent 40 years teaching, the thing he was always actually trying to teach under all the techniques and forms and drills, was the habit of asking that question before asking any other question. Not how do I get out of this, but what is actually available here? The students who understood this fastest, Danny always said, were the ones who had already been in an alley of their own. Not a literal alley. The moment, and everyone has it eventually, when the walls come in and the exit is blocked and the people approaching you are confident they have already won. Those students recognized the question because they had been a space where asking it was the only option left. The students who took longest were the ones who'd spent their whole lives in rehearsals, choosing tests they were likely to pass, building confidence from evidence that was not actually measuring anything difficult. They were not bad students. They were 7 before the alley. Danny always said this with gentleness, because the honest answer to the question of whether you are training for real tests or for rehearsals is uncomfortable, and discomfort received without gentleness closes people rather than opening them. And you cannot learn anything that matters when you are closed. The alley still exists. Different advertising on the dead-end wall. Different products faded to the same pale irrelevance that time eventually brings to everything it moves past. The proportions are the same. 4 meters, dead end at 30, 1 entrance, nothing marks it. Danny's students know the address. Some of them have gone there. They stand in the alley and count the meters and try to feel the geometry. They look at the entrance and imagine 12 people arriving and try to find the center, the place that turns the narrowness from a trap into a structure. The ones who find something useful standing there already knew what they were looking for before they arrived. But Danny said that is not why he tells them the address. He tells them so that they have a location to attach the question to. So that when the question comes to them, and it comes to everyone, in offices and relationships and creative work, and every corridor of human life, where the walls can feel like they are closing in, they have a place to put it. A 19-year-old pressed against a rooftop wall in the dark, watching a man stand in the center of 12 hostile people and think with his feet. What is actually available here? Bruce Lee asked that question in every room he ever entered. A Kowloon alley in 1958 was one room. The question is whether you are asking it in yours.